Welcome, our candidates and audience tonight to the Queensborough Residents Association and the Queensborough Community Center. We're going to be doing the all candidates meeting tonight for mayor and city councillors. And next Monday we'll be doing the school board trustees at the same time. I'd like to thank everybody for attending tonight, and I'd like to thank the QRA for the work they put into putting this together. We have a couple of housekeeping issues and that, and then we're going to get on with everything. Just want to inform everybody to remember voting day is Saturday, October 20th, and for Queensborough residents, that's at Queensborough Middle School. And if you get one of these, they should be on your chairs or in the hallways. It gives you all the reminders if you're going to go to advanced polling or here.
Queen Elizabeth School.
QMS?
No, Queen Elizabeth.
Okay, I'm wrong.
Middle School.
Queen Elizabeth Elementary. Okay. That's okay. I'm not. It's been a long time since I got out of school, and grade 4 was the hardest 6 years. So, anyways, there is a card here, and I'll get on with it. Each candidate's going to have 5 minutes or 300 seconds to address the audience. And we have 4 candidates for mayor and 14 candidates for city council. We're going to be live streaming this candidates meeting on Facebook. The audience will not appear on camera, and if there are any candidates who have an objection to the live streaming, could they let me know now before we start? We request the audience follows respectful codes of conduct, such as not heckling, harassing, or shouting out questions. We are allowing each candidate to have their voice. What we'll be asking each candidate to do is identify the position they're running for, their qualifications, experience, their skills and talents that they would bring to this position, and why should somebody from Queensborough New West vote for you. Once we're through, everybody will have 5 minutes. Once we're through that, we'll wind up, and then there will be the remainder of the time till 9:30 will be a mix and mingle. So if people have specific questions they want to ask a specific candidate, they will have that time to do it. So, and that's it. So now we're going to start off. There will be a timer here and over here, so you'll be able to see how many of your 300 seconds you have left. And up top here, in this will be a little bit of kind of the night's agenda and then who we're going with. And I think our first I can't pronounce that word. Morality? It's one of those words I can't do. So the first person running for mayor, I think, was Jim Bell, and I don't see him here. So then we go to next, and who would that be? Nikki Benz. And we don't have Nikki here yet either. So maybe they're stuck in traffic or on that horrendous Queensborough Bridge or something. So I guess we go to the next candidate, and that would be Jonathan Cote. So 5 minutes.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for coming out here today for the All Candidates meeting, and thank you to the Queensborough Residents Association for hosting tonight's discussion. This is an important civic election coming up in October, and I really appreciate residents taking the time out to engage with the local candidates that are putting their names forward. My name is Jonathan Cote, and I've had the honor to serve as the mayor of the City of New Westminster for the past 4 years. Before that time, I had the opportunity to serve on New Westminster City Council for 9 years before that time. And during my time on City Council and as mayor, the City of New Westminster has gone through a lot of significant changes and a lot of positive changes. And those changes have also occurred here in Queensborough. Queensborough has been one of the fastest growing neighborhoods in the City of New Westminster, and I think that's brought new opportunities, new benefits, but also new challenges to the neighborhood. Now, just a little bit about myself. I'm a long-term resident in the city of New Westminster. I live here with my wife and 3 daughters, and really have enjoyed the community and all the wonderful neighborhoods that we have in the city of New Westminster. We are really a collection of small neighborhoods here in our community. A little bit about my background. I do have a master's degree in urban planning, and I think that was one of the questions we were supposed to ask is just a little bit of our experience there. But I want to focus most of my time talking about Queensborough and some of the issues and challenges that we do face here. One of the earlier tasks that I had after getting elected to City Council for the first time was being appointed to the Queensborough Community Centre Expansion Task Force. And that was a really wonderful opportunity to actually get to know the neighborhood of Queensborough and be a part of the expansion of the building that we're in right here today. And I think the end result of that has been that Queensborough has one of the best community centers that we have in the city, and I think that is a big part of the neighborhood involvement and push for improved services. We've also seen tremendous expansion of park space in the Queensborough neighborhood. It is one of the few neighborhoods that actually, the vast majority of residents in Queensborough live within a short walking distance of a park space. And I think that's been a big part of being able to invest in resources in one of the fastest growing neighborhoods. But we have also faced challenges with growth as well too. And I think if you live in Queensborough, transportation is definitely one of the biggest issues that this neighborhood faces, particularly with its limited access in and out of the community. Our focus definitely over this period of time is to try and see what other options that we can have. The City of New Westminster has strongly advocated for increased public transit options in the Queensborough neighborhood, and we've been very successful in the past year. The 2 major bus routes that service Queensborough to the 22nd Street station have seen significant expanses in their service. We've also launched the Q2Q ferry service, which is connecting Queensborough to the mainland New Westminster. And in the pilot service between May and October, this service is estimated to see 50,000 passenger rides, and this far exceeds our expectations for this particular service. So we definitely see that these types of transportation options are critically important for a growing region, and also a part of the neighborhood that is right in the middle of a larger highway network. So I am seeing that 5 minutes is moving rather quickly, but I also just wanted to also touch about policing in Queensborough, because I know this is a sensitive issue, and it's an issue that this neighborhood often feels a little bit separated. I'm incredibly proud of the work of our New West Police Department, and we've seen actually a lot of our crime statistics in the city and in Queensborough actually decrease over the number of years. But I think there is still a perception and a lack of connection with our police department. So one of my commitments, and this has actually come from a suggestion from Queensborough residents, is actually to set up a community police liaison officer that is dedicated to the Queensborough neighborhood, can make those community relationships and develop those close ties in the neighborhood. So I'm seeing my time quickly, going a lot quicker than I anticipated, but I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. It's been an honor to serve as the mayor of New Westminster, and it's been the honor to represent Queensborough, and look forward to engaging you after today's all candidates meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. And our next will be Arm Waldring.
Thank you, Lauren. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for coming out tonight to listen to all the candidates present to you. I want to focus on what I think is the most important issue in the city in the West, and that's taxes. Taxes are forever going up. So I want to ask a question. I'd like to start by asking you a question. Who here gets upset when they hear executive salaries 10 times higher than rank and file salaries? We hear the stories all the time corporately. Well, it's happening in New West. Our executive team makes at least 10 times more than most of the rank and file employees in our city. And I think that's shameful. There's a chart on the wall there, and it's in your pamphlets that I handed out. Last year, the city generated $75 million worth of taxes and spent $81 million on salaries and wages. Most of that, 52%, went to just 1/3 or 1/4 of the employees at City Hall. The other 2/3 got to share the balance, the 48% that was left. So some of you are going to be thinking, well, that can't be right. But I've done the numbers, and it certainly is right. Of the 900 people who are rank and file employees, about 600 of them are what are called auxiliary employees. Auxiliary employees do not get any union benefits. The only thing they get is 12% in lieu of benefits. Well, they're making a living wage. But to make a living wage, you need living hours. And they're not getting the hours they need to actually make a living wage. So 4 years ago, I started asking questions about the finances of the city of New West. And people started coming to me with information because there's data that's missing. And one critical piece of information that was missing was how many people actually work for the city of New West. It took me 4 years to find that published on the city's website. But 2 years ago, I found a flash drive at the front door of my business, and on it was a complete list of everybody that works in the city of New West, and what their titles are, and how many of them work as auxiliary, how many work as rank and file, and how many work in the executive branch and the administrative branch of the city. And that's when I started getting concerned. Because if it's not right in private companies to overpay executives, it's certainly not right to use our tax money to do so. So the chart on the wall shows that we're about $6 million in spending greater than the tax revenue. So the question is, where's the money come from? Well, the city of New West supplies utilities to all of us: water, sewer, solid waste, and in a unique situation, hydro. And last year, those utilities generated $18 million in net profits for the city of New Westminster. So if you think you're paying too much for water, sewer, and hydro utilities, I'm guaranteeing you are. You may pay the same as other people do for hydro, but $6 million worth of profit balances the salary budget. Without that, we have a salary deficit. So, the question is, what do we do about it? And I think what we need to do about it is elect an independent council and a mayor that will work for the people of New Westminster instead of the people at City Hall, especially the executive at City Hall. So the question is, how did our candidates get elected? Well, those 600 people who pay union dues to QP, their money ends up in the campaign funds of the 7 incumbents at City Hall. The single largest contributor to the last election was QP. $29,500 collectively between all of the branches of QP to the 7 incumbents on City Council. The next highest contribution was from a developer at $11,500 and another developer at $10,500. We need to fix the problems at City Hall, and we need to fix the problems in our community, but we can't do that until we clean City Hall. So I'm standing here in front of you asking you to look at the candidates that are running here. Make choices about the best candidates. Don't worry about the slates. Talk about the people. Understand who is going to stand up for the rights of the people of New Westminster and vote for them. Vote for me because I will commit to you that if I get a council that supports me, I will bring in an auditor and bring in someone to review all of the operations of City Hall, similar to what happened in Brampton, Ontario 4 years ago. And at the end of that, they fired the top 25 managers in the city. I'm not suggesting that that's what we do, but I certainly suggest that we need to take a long, hard look at how our city is run and who's running it. Thank you very much. Remember, October 20th, go out and vote and tell your friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Herm. Our next will be Chino.
Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here and to see all of you here. I am on Team Coatley, and I'm one of those residents who's lived here for a very, very long time. I am one of those people in New West. And being here for 29 years, I can speak with some experience on why I am running and why I'm proud to be a New West resident. For 29 years that I have lived here, I have volunteered extensively in the community, both as a parent and on the community committee meetings as well as the city committee meetings. And I've learned a lot and I've grown. I've raised 3 wonderful children here, and now I'm a grandmother as well. So I feel like I'm very well plugged in to everything the city has to offer in terms of services, in terms of recreational facilities, and everything else a family can want. I am also have a PhD in urban planning, so I know how a city government should function and what city planning should look like. My professional career. Now, I said I had a PhD in urban planning, but my focus has been on social issues because often in urban planning there are some people who miss out on what we do. And my focus is on social issues through my professional career. I worked at U.S. School District for about 10 years, and my focus was on immigrants and refugees, managing the multicultural services program. I was also a community school coordinator, looking after the needs of children and families who missed out on whatever was regularly offered through the community, through the school district. So my focus has been on immigrants, on families with children, and as I grew older and through my next phase of career, which was at United Way of the Lower Mainland, I worked with seniors issues as well. So it's a combination of all three that I bring to my platform, and the time is ticking away very quickly. So on my signs outside, on my platform, you'll find three words. It's livability, vibrancy, and inclusiveness. I'll talk a little bit longer on the inclusiveness because that is the sum total of what I bring from my professional life, my volunteering, and who I am. Now, I think any city council candidate knows that no matter how passionate we are about one single area, the fact is that the job of any council candidate is going to be livability first, because you have to have the basic needs of the people met, which includes housing and transportation. And the city has done a wonderful job in many areas, but there's always room for some improvement. The utilities. And that provides the base of urban living. Taking it one step further, you have the vibrancy indicators, which is what makes people feel like they belong in that community? What are the social spaces? What about the recreational spaces? Where do they interact and come together and feel like this is my community and I want to be here? And that is, again, the job of a council candidate, to make sure all those vibrancy indicators, what are the fun events, and there's tons happening now. The last portion of what I would call is my focus is inclusion. Because as much as city council tries and a candidate tries, some people just have certain barriers and they cannot get as engaged in everything the city provides, and that task is to dig a little deeper into where that lies and how we can support that a little bit more. So barriers such as age, barriers such as culture and language, barriers such as mobility, such as accessibility and affordability. Without having all people line up together on that, we can't do an effective job. So my focus as a new candidate will be to see how we can make all of New West more inclusive. And certainly there's a lot to be done in Queensborough as well, for the seniors, for the immigrants, and all the rest of the population. Accessibility, I know, is a huge part of this because I think we need to connect with the mainland a little bit more and bring more interaction between the river that divides us. So it's a little bit of geography, but we have to work hard on it. But I think it is all a doable project, and I want to engage more with you to figure out how we do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. And now we're down, I'm going to be going back and forth, and I'll keep you awake. Daniel.
Thanks so much for organizing this. I'm Daniel Fontaine. I'm running for City Council with the New West Progressive slate. This election is very pivotal to Queensborough in our city, and I want to start by asking you a question. Do you feel like City Hall, the municipal politicians on stage tonight, who've now formally branded themselves as Team Côté, are they listening to your concerns? Better yet, are they actually acting upon those concerns? Because for the past 4 years, 100% of council has been controlled by a single political party and a special interest group. And now tonight they're asking you for another 4 more years. Their allegiance has been to the people who financed their campaign. And as Harm alluded to earlier, in 2014, that was a lot of big developers and big unions. And I will acknowledge that the current council has done some good things, and they should be recognized for that. But I see the potential in this city and how so many good ideas and so many opportunities are being missed because neither council has the expertise or the political leadership to get it done. I've often compared New Westminster to Brooklyn, a city that when Manhattan got very expensive, people moved into it. The artists, the renters, the creative community. They went over and moved into Brooklyn. It was an edgy, vibrant city, lower cost. Sound familiar? Sounds like New West. And we're in the middle of that metamorphosis right now. We're changing. We're growing. We're densifying. Just look at Queensborough and the changes that have occurred here in the last decade. New developments come in, it's enlivened the community, but it's also created a number of challenges. Ewan Street is a traffic congestion mess at rush hour. Getting basic services during the day requires a trip across the bridge. And if it's like yesterday, that's impossible. And did I mention that we still have open ditches in this community and a lack of sidewalks and no plan to actually rectify that? This council has had 4 years to improve that situation, and their political party has had over a decade to rectify that problem, and they haven't. And yet I keep hearing from the people of Queensborough when I'm on the doorstep that you feel let down. You tell me that City Hall isn't listening. You tell me decisions are made in advance. You go to public hearings and decisions have already been made. You're telling me that you're looking for a city government that needs a culture shift. A city that should be finding a way of getting to yes and not always telling you no. For me, my decision to run for public office was personal. The last major sport and recreation facility in this city built was Moody Park Arena back in 1974. You know what was on television in 1974? Archie Bunker and All in the Family. That's the last time we built a sports facility in this community. My son plays hockey. I have to get him up at 4:30 in the morning for a 5:30 practice because we don't have enough ice time in the city. Look around this region. Surrey, Coquitlam, Burnaby, Richmond, every other city has translated new growth and density into things like new community centers, new arenas, new sports facilities and libraries. Why can't we do the same thing in our city? We can, and we should be doing better. And that all starts on October 20th, when you elect 4 New West Progressive Council candidates to council. Our team has listened to you. We've developed a very positive and comprehensive 10-point action plan, which you can access on our website. It incorporates a special commitment to Queensborough. Our 10-point plan reflects your interests, not special interests. We want you to enjoy a glass of wine on the beach without getting a fine. We want to introduce a 311 service so you can access city after hours in multiple languages. I'd like to look at setting up an arrangement with the City of Richmond so we could build a sports facility that would be a joint agreement between City of New West and Richmond. How simple is that? I'd also like to explore looking at a fixed rail commuter link between Queensborough and downtown because I know you were promised a bridge and you never got it, but we do have a rail bridge and there's a way for us to connect Queensborough to downtown fairly easily. We're not career politicians with the New West Progressives. We're here to serve the community. And I'm here tonight to tell you that we want to do that. We want to make our community a better place. And I firmly believe that New Queensborough can make a difference. Only 28% of the population voted in the last election. And if you go out to vote, you're going to make a difference. Queensborough can turn this election. It's so important that you vote and that you ask others to do the same. And by doing so, you will open up our city to new ideas and a more balanced approach. I thank you for your support.
Thank you, Daniel. Our next candidate to speak will be Troy Hunter.
Good evening, everybody. I have to say it's a real honor to be here to run for City Council. That's the position I'm going for. I was born in New Westminster, Royal Columbia Hospital. It's the first hospital that we've ever had in British Columbia, and for me it's a moment of being proud. I belong here is how I feel. I grew up in Cranbrook in the small town, and then I've gone off to university and got a law degree and also a diploma in cultural resource management. I do heritage conservation stuff. I started up an interpretive center within the Tinaka-Kinbasket Interpretive Center, which used to be an Indian residential school, and we've turned it into a world-class resort, $40 million resort. One of the things that I like to do is I get onto Google Earth and I plan ski resorts. I look at the mountains and I say, where can we build a resort, a facility, something, tourism? It's one of the things that are on my mind a lot. And having moved here to New Westminster 4 years ago, I've set up my shop. I've got my law firm downtown on Columbia Street, and I too see the difficulties we have with traffic. What can we do about that? I see, you know, there's Mayor Cody said it well. We have separated communities, and so we have a little bit here, a little bit there, little towns and stuff like that. It's really good to hear that we've got existing assets, the railway bridge that is perhaps underutilized, and how can we use that? And I think that we could look at ways and options. You know, I just came from Quebec province. I was in Montreal and I was in Quebec City. Some of the things that I've seen out there, how could we apply that here? So things like, you know, thinking out of the box, and in terms of long-term vision, we're talking about by 2048, 40,000 new residents here alone. But what about all the residents around us? There's going to be so much more people coming and flowing through our city. So what can we do to prepare for that? And I think, you know, we do need to do this like railway or maybe a tram or something. In Quebec City, they've got what's called a funiculaire, which is pretty neat. It's like a little elevator that goes sideways up a hill. And then there's underground tunnels that in Montreal, maybe a kilometer long. It'll bring traffic, you know, and route traffic. So if we can deal with the traffic solution, then we can get back to being a city again. What we have is an amazing location. We've got waterfront property, the Fraser River here. You know, this used to be the capital city of British Columbia. I'm a historian. I've been writing a book about the history, and it just means so much, a lot to me. Let's see. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that I'm a member of the Indigenous First Nation. I'm from the Tinaka Nation, which is in East Kootenays. And I know that the council recently passed a motion to look at a sister city idea with one of the Chilcotin communities. And I think that's fantastic, and I'd like to build on that. I would like to see reconciliation. We have Quaquate First Nation, New Westminster First Nation, that they don't have a reserve, but there's a history here. And Poplar Island actually is some part of that history. Used to be smallpox, people that had smallpox had to go there. And who knows that? You know, this is really interesting. And what is happening, you know, I'd like to be a part of that reconciliation. But first of all, I'd like to ask, you know, reach out to each and every one of you as residents of Queensborough and to contact me if you like. Look at my website, troyhunter.ca. I left my cards there. But I want to know what inspires you. What would you like to see happen? You know, I'm running as an independent, and I ask that you vote, you know, with your heart and your minds. You know, vote on the individual, look at their merits. I've got 10 years experience as a vice president of Indigenous Art Service Organization, and I've also got 3 years experience as a school trustee in school district number 58, which is Merritt and Princeton area. That's a lot to say. Anyways, I'm looking forward. I think this is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm here. And so I think that's everything I could say in the 5 minutes.
Thank you, Troy. Our next lucky contestant is Mike Ireland.
Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Queensborough Residents Association. How about that? All right, I'll hold the microphone up a little bit higher. Now I feel like I'm at a comedy club. So thanks for having me. I'm Mike Ireland. I wasn't raised in this community. I've spent 35 years here. I bought a home here about 9 months ago. And I've spent the last 20 years of my career living abroad. I grew up on the other side of the river in North Delta before they built the Alex Fraser Bridge. And I remember coming over here on every second weekend as I was growing up as a kid because my dad was here. And he taught up at the high school. He's still teaching, for Christ's sakes. So anyways, that's how I became familiar with New Westminster. And I started playing rugby, back for Pokemon the days. We had this hall for a party, I think, at one point. It didn't look like this, though. Not at all. It's pretty beautiful. So anyways, I got involved in this campaign to become a counselor because my background is in heavy civil construction business. So I have a degree in business, and I got involved in heavy civil construction, so pipe, tunnels, sewer infrastructure, highways, bridges, and all the things that Queensborough has around them all the time. And you're bordered and you're bound by them. You're in this little pocket here with nowhere to go. And that's the way I feel in New Westminster too. So when I moved back here and I started driving east and west across the city to go that way to Coquitlam and this way through Queensborough and past the Queensborough Bridge, I recognized something. Nothing's changed here for 25 years, 30 years. When I left here and there was still traffic lights over at 72nd Avenue and the 91 over there. And I came back 25 years later and there's still frickin' traffic lights over on a highway. This place is the only place in the world that we can build a brand new highway and put traffic lights in it. So my passion for this position comes from that. It comes from looking at the ignorance that bounded us in these places right now, with no thought and no design and no concept. We're about to embark on another one, a brand new Patella Bridge. The requests for qualifications are out right now. They were put out 8 weeks ago. And yes, I have them. And why do I have them? Because I was going to be one of the proponents with the company I work for. But I'm not going to be now. But what I see in those documents is an amazing ignorance, again, by TransLink, by Modi, and by the people that negotiate on your behalf. Remember that. The first line of defense you have as a citizen of this city is your civic politicians. We're the ones that can go and talk because most of the federal and most of the provincial are never going to listen to what you have to say. And they're surely not going to listen about the light that's broken over here or any of the other troubles that go on in the city. And Daniel said something right, and I connected yesterday. I came over because I go to Lowe's, see, like every second day lately because I'm doing a small renovation on my loft. And anyways, I come across that bridge, and every single day the Queensborough Bridge is jammed up. There's never a good day. It's unbelievable. And I can't believe that they're spending $250 million in Delta because Delta had the ability to negotiate upgrades to their traffic. There's a brand new plan for Delta. It's going to spend $250 million to fix the 91 and the 17 interchange, and you don't have a dime for this. And this is a mess. And so is Burnett and Braid. I've never seen anything like it. So if that's what's going to go on in this city for the next 4 years, we're going to be stuck in it again. So listen, make a difference, make a change. And I'm not telling you I'm going to be there for everything that this city and this council does, but I'm going to make sure I'm there for the critical negotiations that you have to have on all of the parts of the city and our investment in our future, whether it be brand new sports facilities or ones that are upgraded. I swim. I'm an Ironman triathlete. I swim, and I won't swim the Canada Games pool because it hurts my head. The chlorine in there is unbearable. There's other methods to do it nowadays. There's salt water. These are critical upgrades that we don't need to go back to Archie Bunker times. We can spend it properly. Thank you.
Along now, staying alphabetical, Patrick Johnson.
Thank you, Lori. Hello, yeah, my name is Patrick Johnstone. I've been on city council now for a single term. I was elected in 2014. I'm an environmental scientist and geologist for my living. I got elected in 2014 after a decade of volunteering in the city and community action in the city. I was working on sustainability, working on environmental issues, working on active transportation issues. So I was volunteered for the Environmental Partners and for the Royal City Curling Club and for a bunch of organizations. And like I think a lot of people in this room, I cared about the city and I cared about the conversation that was going on in the city. And so I decided to run for council, and just by luck I got elected. So it is an interesting job. It is a challenging job. It is a rewarding job. And it is at times a very difficult job. If you're doing it well, you are going to sleep at night thinking about it, and if you wake up in the morning, you're thinking about it. It is an all-encompassing job. So it has been a really good, it has been an interesting challenge. And I'm proud of the work we've done in the last 4 years, and I'm proud of what this city has done. New Westminster, I don't even realize the reputation New Westminster has outside of the city. We are a city that punches above its weight on a bunch of important issues that's important to the city. And this comes before my time. We've continued on this council. Other cities come to New Westminster to talk to us about how do we do our affordable housing policies? How do we have 1,000 new rental units being built in the city? How do we not have any demo evictions of our affordable rental units? How do we get developers to agree to build family-friendly units in all of their new developments? And actually, this is something that people on the other side of the river don't realize. How do we get so many row homes and townhouses built? That missing middle that is missing throughout the region. That is one thing that people on the other side of the river look at Queensborough and say they wish they had. Those kind of housing policies are things that New West has led the region. People don't realize New Westminster also leads the region in alternative transportation. That New Westminster has the highest per capita use of transit of any city in the Lower Mainland. Now we're lucky, we've got 5 SkyTrain stations. But it's also lucky because we are developing our city the way the regional growth strategy has recommended we grow our city, by building a density near the SkyTrain so that people don't have to rely on their vehicle for day-to-day travel. That is part of the regional discussion about transit, about traffic. Now, there's challenges in the city. Affordable housing is still a challenge. We are not alone in this region. The entire region is suffering from an affordability crisis. We're ahead of the curve by a lot of the work we've done, but we now have some new tools the government has given us. We can now do inclusionary zoning, we can now do rental zoning. They also have, for the first time in 20 years, federal and provincial governments are willing to spend some money building affordable housing. So we have an opportunity to take those levers and actually make the deal with affordable housing better in the city and in the region, and we are well versed to do that. And I'm looking at the time, I want to talk traffic, but I've got a minute. I can't talk traffic in less than 2 minutes. So we're going to talk traffic after I get off the stage here, when we have the conversation after. I ran because I love the city, and I ran because I love this conversation. I love that this city is a passionate city. When we talk about heritage in Queen's Park, there are lawn sign battles over heritage. Hundreds of people show up for public meetings in New Westminster to talk about the Pattullo Bridge. We went through a 3-year conversation on the Pattullo Bridge. Hundreds of people showed up. That is a passionate city. People care about what's going on. And it's incumbent on us to make sure that we're helping that conversation, we're listening to that conversation. I was part of the Mayor's Public Engagement Task Force. I really think that's important that we listen to our residents and that we listen to all the residents in the city, all 70,000. The hardest part about engagement is that neighbors disagree. And when 2 neighbors disagree on any issue, one of them is going to be upset with the decision you make. That is inevitable. The only thing we can do to deal with that is be transparent and be honest with them about why we made the decisions we did. What I've done the last 4 years on council is I have, on my website, I have blogged out, I've given the answers to, I've given a summary in plain language of every council decision we've made. After every council meeting, I write a report. And I say, look, here's the decisions we made, and here's why I voted the way I did. You may not agree with every decision I've made, but at least I've told you where I'm coming from, and transparently, so that you can come to me, you can ask me, and say, why did you make this decision? I don't agree with it, and we can have that conversation. That is really the only way for an engaged city like New Westminster to get anywhere, to continue to move forward. So I'm out of time. So I thank you, Lori, thank you for hosting us, and I'd love to chat with you afterwards because I love to talk. Thanks.
Patrick. So, I've been on council for 9 years. My name's Jamie McAvoy. My family has a very long history in New Westminster. In fact, going back some members of my family to the 1920s. I have family who live in Queensborough, including my sister, who some of you know because she's attended some of the Queensborough meetings. So it's hard not to reply to other candidates, so I'm not going to spend my time doing that. But I can tell you that I have exact and accurate figures on taxes in New Westminster, traffic in New Westminster, and what's been done over the past 4 years and 9 years. Compared to somebody waving a magic wand and pulling the rabbit out of the hat. That's not a policy. Who am I? For most of the past 10 years, I've worked running a charity in New Westminster called the Hospitality Project. It's a project that works at the New Westminster Food Bank that tries to help people with the issues they're having other than needing food. So if someone's about to become homeless, we help to avoid that. If they are homeless, we help to find them housing. If they have a kid who goes to school and doesn't have the supplies, we'll get the supplies together for them. If somebody needs clothing, we get that. If you need a suit for a job or a wedding, we'll get that for you too. It's a kind of compassion and community service that I had for 20 years before I ran for council. And it was an experiment, to be honest. What would compassionate government look like? Could you do that in a city government? And I concluded that you can, but you still have to be smart about it, and you have to work with people about it. But it's not only that. We all bring our own particular interest to city council. The job is big, and the whole job has to be done. And it can't be done by stomping around like a child at an all candidates debate. It has to be done through hard work and working with other people. If you have watched city council meetings, you have seen us have some pretty ferocious debates with each other. But we never walk away and malign each other at the end of the day because we believe that we're working together for the good of our city and that that's how we should approach the job and that's what we should do. For a while in New Westminster, we had a school board where the primary feature of the school board was fighting with each other at meetings. And you know what? Nothing happened. Not until the different factions and people who were on the school board started working together respectfully, and the city joined in, by the way. We encouraged that, and we joined in the effort by providing parks near schools to get new schools built in New Westminster. And after decades of talking about it, and a couple of decades of struggle with the provincial government to do it, we got the job done. And your city government was part of that too. And that happened because people came together with a positive vision and worked together and didn't attack each other. And that's how we do business. So what's happened in Queensborough? A lot of people have lived here a long time. Some people haven't lived here a long time. So I want to say honestly that when I ran for office, I saw Queensborough as the neglected community and the neglected neighborhood of New Westminster. So we took action. And that action included the Q2Q ferry. It included renovations to this building. It included childcare in Queensborough, which is badly needed, and we know we still need more. It included walkways. We told developers you can't just come here and build a bunch of luxury towers. We'll let you build. We want family-friendly housing. We want townhouses and row houses. We adopted a formal family-friendly housing policy that developers had to meet. And we said it's not just all going to be construction and development. It's going to include parks. It's going to include walkways. It's going to include space for school. It's going to include childcare in some of the buildings you develop. And in the future plans for some of the development along UN Avenue and commercial spaces, if we have our way, it's going to include space for a doctor and a medical office. It's going to include community liaison police officer working right here in Queensborough on all the issues that need to be addressed. We've already worked on partnership with the RCMP in case there's ever a major disaster here at the worst time of rush hour, because we don't control the provincial highways, but we can certainly make the plans we need to make. And that's the kind of council you have. And that's the kind of work that we've done. And I'll leave you with a quote from Churchill. You know, we don't always get what we want, but I'm always open. I always talk to people. I've got people here in the audience who I've worked with. You know, we don't always get what we want. But Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government. Except for all the other forms of government. And it's true. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Jimmy. Going back down to the other end of the table. How'd you know I was going to pick you? Paul McNamara.
Well, I might not be the smartest guy in the crowd, but I can follow my alphabet. So, thanks for that. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and listen to us and actually engage in civic politics. It's very important. This is where change starts for you, and it's your city and it's your neighborhood. So really bear that in mind to start with. My name is Paul McNamara. I'm with the New West Progressives. Daniel stole my thunder on a lot of the points because we all agree with the same points. We really want to see things change here. I've been a police officer for 32 years. I did 5 years in England and 26 years with Vancouver Police. I spent my first 12 years walking the downtown east side every day of my life. I spent 8 hours a day down there. And I know how a community can fall apart very fast. I've seen it, I've lived it, and I've been in the trenches. I don't have a degree, I don't have a university, but I've really been in the trenches of life. And that's what I feel I can bring to the table for you folks. I like to see people cooperate. We should be collaborating with people, and that includes you. Every time we have big decisions, that's the community at heart. It's our business leaders. It's everybody that has a stake in living and working in New Westminster. And I'll be honest with you, I think yes, City Council has listened to you, but I don't think they've always heard you. And there's a big difference between listening to people and actually hearing what they have to say. And I'm one of these guys that wear my heart on my sleeve. If I want to get the job done, we need to get it done. We need to tackle the hard issues, and we need to go ask the hard questions. What got me into this was the Canada Games pool. My daughter swims there competitively. It's her life. She's there 8 days a week. She has dreams on the Olympics. Is she going to make it? I don't know. That's not the point. The point is she's learning lessons. She's being a healthy, engaging young lady. One day she may be somebody that comes back to this community. And I've knocked on so many doors, and people say to me, I used to swim at the Canada Games pool, and I went to university, and I've come back to the city to put something back into the community. That's what the New West Progressives will foster. That's what I personally want to foster. You folks need a voice. You need to have somebody who's willing to sit there and ask the hard questions. And everything sounds great here. And every one of these candidates has a great thing to say. And you can listen to it, and it all sounds good. But I actually want to be able to be there and say, if we need a bridge, and we need a connection for New Westminster to Queensborough, Queensborough to New Westminster, let's get it done. Let's not have a Q that's a trial for 2 years, and I still knock on doors and people say it's great, but come October, November, December, January, February, I can't use it. My daughter can't use it. I have to get on a bus, and I don't care if you're in a bus or in a car. If traffic's stuck on Queensborough, you're stuck on Queensborough Bridge. You're not going to make it to SkyTrain. So why can't we have that integrated? Why can't we force that issue and say, whether it's Translead, whether it's the city puts it on, or whether we have a privatized company that runs it. However it works. Why isn't it there? Ask yourself that. And if there's other things in your mind that's not happened and it's not there, ask yourself, why is it not here? Why are we not getting what we're supposed to be getting? And it's because you don't have somebody on council who's willing to stand up for you and say, let's get this done. And that's why I'm here. I feel passionate about New Westminster. I love living here. And it's a good city. It should be the royal city. This should be the hub of the entire Lower Mainland. People should want to come here on the weekends to go, hey, let's go out to New Westminster. Let's come in and have sports tourism. Let's have an arts culture that brings people in. It brings an economy in. It brings money to our city, and it helps us all. This is what makes it vibrant. This is what makes it livable. This is what gets people interested in staying here, to stay living here, and people coming to visit New Westminster. I'm passionate about it, and that's me. Paul McNamara, New West Progressives. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. I didn't have to go far this time. To Nadine Nakagawa.
my name is Nadine Nakagawa, and I'm running for City Council. I'd first like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Kukai First Nation and the Coast Salish people. I have been doing work in this community for quite some time. I've worked in the office of the MLA for New Westminster, Judy Darcy, who unfortunately no longer serves this neighborhood. I worked as her constituency assistant for 5 years, and in that role, we worked on projects relating to transit, so restoration of some community shuttles. We held housing town halls and workshops because I believe that housing affordability is the #1 issue this election. It affects so many different people across our region. And we worked on issues like childcare, which I think is another big issue here in Queensborough. It's gotten a little bit better in the past couple of years, but it remains a major issue facing families in this neighborhood. I've also worked in a homeless shelter for women and children, and I currently work at the Dr. Peter AIDS Foundation. So I have a lot of experience serving the community and serving vulnerable people. I am the 2017 Citizen of the Year for my work in the community. I've done works like public art projects, worked on a community garden project on the front lawn of City Hall. I've served on a number of different city committees, and I served as the president of my residents association. I live in the brow of the hill. I believe that, I did say that housing is the #1 issue this election, but I think right behind that is public engagement. And I think a lot of what people are talking about is how we have conversations. And we need to have better conversations. I really would like to see the city evolve the way that we do public engagement. But we can't do that by dividing people. We have to bring people together. And that's what my work in the community has been about, is bringing people together to work on things that matter to people. I think that people throughout New Westminster often say that they don't necessarily feel heard. And I think that the solution to that is to move the opportunities for public engagement upstream, so that people have the opportunity to engage with the city in a conversation earlier on. I also served on the Mayor's Task Force for Public Engagement, and one of the main focuses there was talking to people whose voices are underserved. So whether that's young people, renters, newcomers, seniors, we need to find a way to hear everyone's voices in this community, because that is what will make our community stronger. I've recently put out a seniors platform with Patrick Johnstone, in which we talked a lot about livability. So things like sidewalks and street trees and access to green space. So spaces where people can come together and meet their neighbors. I also put out a platform on housing, and I believe that the solutions to the housing crisis is that we need to bring in some creative solutions. A lot of the issues that people are talking about, be it housing, childcare, or transportation, fall into different levels of government, and it's really easy to say that we'll just strong on those levels of government and get them to do what we want. But the fact is that this is a region, and a lot of the issues that we face are regional. We have to work together, and we will not do that by dividing the community. So I would like to hear from all of you after this. I really want to work with you. I have a very collaborative style. I like to work with people. I spend a lot more time behind the scenes. Standing in front of a microphone isn't what I normally do. It's not where I'm most comfortable standing. I do like to be working with people and amplifying their voices and giving them opportunities to lead on issues that matter to them. So I look forward to speaking with you after this.
Gotta be careful not to step on the cord. Thank you, Nadine. Geez, I just went by Benny Ogden.
Thank you. My name is Benny Ogden. I'm running for City Council, and quite honestly, the reason why I decided to run was because I was at City Hall and I didn't like the way that people were not being listened to. This is my 3rd time in Queensborough Community Center in the last few weeks. I was at the Residents Association meeting a few weeks ago, and I was at the event the following Saturday. I'm probably getting old because that music was way too loud. Now, I will be at every meeting. That is my goal, to be at every single Residents Association meeting, as many of them as I can get to, because that's where people are talking, and I will be there listening. When I was there, I heard a couple of things. One of them actually ties into something Mayor Cote was talking about, the police presence. My understanding, there's a room here for police, and it's being used for storage. We need to have somebody out here permanently. Simple. The other thing, of course, that I heard, a couple other things. Apparently there's construction crews that aren't cleaning up behind themselves. That can't continue. And I also heard talk about the speed limit, how some people feel that all through this area should be 30 kilometers an hour. With the amount of kids running around, that makes a lot of sense. And that's something I would definitely want to look into. And of course, lower taxes. I want to look for creative ways to bring in tax rebates. Like if you do something for the environment, like putting a beehive on your property, planting flowers, I want to be able to give you a tax credit for that. If you have a building with a flat roof and you put a garden out there, I want to give a tax credit for that for the people running apartment buildings. You know, things of that nature. And I will be the guy that you can reach no matter what. I know I've got 5 minutes, I can take it too, but that's really about all I have to say.
Thank you, Benny. We could have a 7th inning stretch if you're a baseball fan. Going way down here to the end. Chuck Buckmeyer.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lori, for putting this on. And sorry about the issue with the rental fee. We did get that resolved. I think that these forms should always be available for the public, especially something that is nonpartisan equally, such as an all candidates meeting. And we will make sure that that's rectified from here on. My name is Chuck Buckmeyer. I'm running for City Council. This will be, I think I was first elected in 1996. And as other councillors here, or potential councillors here, we run because we have concerns with the community, because we care about the community. We have a passion for the community. I lived just off 12th Street in 10th. We had a lot of problems with crime. The street was just covered in graffiti. We had a lot of drug issues. We had prostitution issues. I used to always complain to the police and other members of the existing council, and somebody said, "Why don't you run?" And I thought, "Oh, that's a novel idea. Maybe I will run." And so I did. I ran the first time in '92. I was not elected. I ran in '96 and was elected. And so I have seen the most dramatic change in this city in the last few years. And the most of that change has been in the last 8 years, when you actually had a majority of the council that were true progressives, that really made a difference. We went from an industry-based, we lost all of our mills when the Liberal government legislated them away with the Forest Practices Code. All our lumbers went into containers and offshore. A lot of unemployment started. We began to go into a tech city. We went boldly and we developed a fiber network. We are now leaders in this province, probably even further. We are leaders. We have a fiber backbone, dark fiber backbone, that is bringing tech businesses into this city. And within a millisecond, our data is anywhere in the world. Movie productions being done, all the special effects are being done here in New Westminster. We are really changing. I've been to Brooklyn. This is better than Brooklyn. The potential here in New Westminster is unbelievable. When I was on council years ago, we had a very divisive council, and the government offered up destination casinos. It was an NP government. Of course, the Liberals on council didn't want that because Gordon Campbell was in opposition, and he said that was a bad thing, even though once he got in, he tripled gaming revenues. We missed out, we almost missed out by one vote. It was a 4-3 split that brought us not only the $6 million a year, we already had a casino in New Westminster, by the way, with slot machines. It brought in another 1.6, almost $200 million in tourist-related infrastructure. It built this addition to the community center. It built the skate park, it built the library, it built the Discovery Center, it built the Anvil Center, it did park upgrades at zero cost to the taxpayer. That's when you work with senior levels of government. A divisive council would not have allowed that. We would be so far behind today. Mr. Fontaine, I know your group isn't a politician, but you can't hide from the fact that you are a politician. And you were the chief of staff for Sam Sullivan at a time when one of the worst decisions, the Olympic Village, the contract was given to an insider and ran the city into basically bankruptcy. The legislature had to reconvene while I was in Victoria. And we had to pass a legislation to allow the Vancouver to borrow. We changed the charter so they could borrow. Mr. Fontaine had a blog called City Caucus, which was a non-progressive attack on the progressive vision government. The blog's missing, it's gone. I ask you, Mr. Fontaine, please post City Caucus again so that the people can read what you wrote, what you are really all about, so that they really know. We have a very cooperative group of people that work together, respect each other, have a passion for this city. We don't attack. We are upfront, we are honest, we're full disclosure, we're award-winning open government. Let's have this continue and let's not go backwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Angela Seeley.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so very much for using up your evening to come here, and I promise that you will be entertained and not bored, hopefully. I have been in Canada now, 51 years, and I believe I'm the only independent, no, Troy is also an independent on this running for council. Oh, I do beg your pardon, I'm sorry for that, somebody. Oh, well, there it started. Let's reboot that one. Okay, so anyway, I'm independent, and so I think when I said that earlier, someone said, well, you will have a very large boulder to roll up the hill. And the answer to that is, I came to Canada on March 1st, 1967, and landed in Regina and survived 4 years. Believe me, I can meet that challenge. So why am I running and who am I? I have 20 years housing experience. I'm a self-employed consultant where I work throughout the province and whoever will hire me to do various jobs. I worked on seniors projects. I worked on community planning tables. I worked on organizational development, and I was a visiting instructor at Douglas College. So as a consultant, I have the pleasure of getting around to meet other people and to be involved in the community. In addition to that, I served on the Seniors Advisory Committee for the City of New Westminster, and I'm now on the Multicultural Committee. One of the things I do love, I love living in New Westminster. When I graduated from the University of Victoria and moved over to New Westminster, I thought, well, this is fine. I don't have to live over a bridge or through a tunnel, so this is great. I can get where I want to go. I have a policy and a thing about bridges. The bridges were built when, back in the day, people were saying, let's go into the big city for a picnic. Now it's not that, let's twin the bridges and be done with it, but that's my thing. One of the nice things about New Westminster, actually, I feel safe. I walk the streets late at night because sometimes I come home late and I want a bit of exercise, and I go out and I feel completely safe walking. It's the first city that brought in crime-free multi-housing, and it also brought in septic, and I've taken them all. So I was really happy about that. However, all that said, I do think there's some things missing that I would like to deal with, and somebody said I believe that there was no demo evictions, and there's absolutely true, but there have been renovictions. And I'd like to see that come to an end, and I believe I have the skill, the knowledge, and the experience, and the collaborative knowledge and experience to make that happen. I used to work for housing. I used to live in a housing co-op. I have traveled across this country talking about housing, and I believe that I can actually turn that around. If I would invite you, when you go home at some point tonight, take a look at my website, and I have definitions, because the word affordability gets bandied about quite a bit, and right now affordability is what the market can afford. Well, try and tell that to someone who works in retail. It doesn't work. So there's some co-ops just built, and the rent started at $2,050. Well, I've calculated that to live in those units, you have to make a minimum of $80,000. So it's not that easy. However, moving on as I see the clock, my other platform is growing business. We can't keep building housing and not bringing business for people to work to afford these houses because they're expensive and we need salary business. We need to start boosting, as well boosting our tourism. I think for New Westminster, given its history, our tourism is very, very weak and we should actually be building on that. And moving along, that 5 minutes goes way too fast. My other piece of the platform is accredited age-friendly communities. And that is a community for all. You talked about inclusivity, yes, but the World Health Organization calls it age-friendly communities. And Saanich has already been accredited. We could learn from them. We started, New Westminster started, but I have worked on age-friendly communities in the city of Surrey and Whitecross with a colleague in Whitecross, and I have an idea of what that's all about. It's a city for everyone, not just seniors or people who are temporarily or permanently have mobility challenges, but it's for the parent. It's the parent with the stroller and the baby who's trying to get up the hill. We also have some issues on tree roots. There's a number of things, inclusivity. And finally, Canada Game School. And my sort of Canada Game School, when I moved over here and used to swim at the University of Victoria, I had no idea there was such a thing. And I kept thinking, when I find it, I won't leave. So definitely, thank you very much. Vote for Angela. And I'll see the actually. See Angela.
Thank you very much, Angela. Down to the far end here, and Mary Trenton.
Thank you, Lori, and thanks to you and your group for hosting us tonight. I would also like to acknowledge that we are on the unceded territory of the Kakite First Nation and the Coast Salish people. So, as I was introduced, my name is Mary Trentadue. I am currently finishing my first term here in New Westminster. I've enjoyed it. It's been an amazing experience. It's not always easy, but nobody said that this kind of work would be. My friends often ask me, because none of them are very political, they want to know, why do you do that? Why do you do that work? And I think the bottom line for me is that I really love working with people. And I want to understand what it is that people need, and what works for them, what doesn't work for them, and how can we make the community better. And it isn't easy. You're not always going to be able to make people happy. But I think what I felt really proud about serving the last term is that this council is very accessible. I have met with many people in the last 4 years. I've met with some of you in this room several times. I've had coffee, I've had phone calls, conversations, and I've done what I can to hear what your issues are and to try to move them up the ladder. I think that's our job. It is our job to hear what is not working for you. It's our job to hear what's not working for, or what's working for the entire community, and that's always a challenging balance. People don't always agree. So I really enjoy this work. I think it's important work, and I look forward to the opportunity of another term. So about me, I am a small business owner. I own a bookstore for 10 years. I can't get through a day without reading, and I have a small 7-year-old boy who keeps me very young and quite tired. And I have an experience of what it's like to be a parent in this community, what it's like to have my son go through the school district. I've sat on the PAC. There's a lot going on for families. I sometimes understand why we don't get the engagement that we need or that we're looking for. It's because people are really busy. They don't always have the time to come to meetings or to engage with us in a way that we're looking for. And so we need to change that. We need to figure out how to meet people where they're at and understand what it is they're looking for in a way that works for them. I'm very proud of some of the things that we've done in the past 4 years. As it has been mentioned, this council started talking about renovictions and demevictions about 4 years ago on our seniors committee. It was highlighted that this is an issue for our community. And we started developing that policy. Now, City Council, prior to me, had put in some policy that protected our 3-story walk-ups, but we have to do more. We have to protect some of these developments, or homes, rather, because they're under threat. There's a great threat out for those homes, and it's important that we find ways to manage that. The other thing I'm really proud of is that we've worked really hard with regards to childcare. I know that childcare was at a crisis and probably still is in Queensborough. I initiated a meeting with the Minister of Childcare a couple of weeks ago to figure out how does New West access the $13 million that was recently announced. What are the projects that we can push forward to go after some of that money? Because we need to make that happen, and our families can't wait for childcare. They need it now. The other thing that I've been really excited about in this actual campaign is the number of women that are running. I don't think I've ever seen so many women running in an election, and I am very excited about that prospect. Just the fact that there are a lot of women at this table, there's a lot of women running for school board. We need more women at the table. We need more women doing this work, and I would like to say thank you to all the women that stood up. I'm especially proud to be standing with the two women that are running for council, Nadine Nakagawa and Chinu Das, on Team Cote. I would be honored to do this work with them as well as our other colleagues. Wow, where did the time go? The arts, I've been very involved in the arts. It's very close to my heart. I'm going to continue to advocate for the arts and make sure that it gets done properly. I think I've learned so much in the last 4 years, and I'd like to take that knowledge forward and make sure that we look after the arts community the way it should be. And I think that's all I will say. I do appreciate that you've come out to engage and to listen. It's not always easy to do that, but I do appreciate the time you put in, and I hope you'll consider Mary Trentadue when you go and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And now down to Ellen Valencourt. Did I say that right?
Thank you. Yes, Ellen Valencourt here in the West. Si vous parlez en français, c'est Hélène Vaillancourt. Mais right now we're on the Coast Salish unceded territory, so I will speak in English to you. And I never actually thought I'd be here running for council, but here I am. And amid some friendly faces that I've recognized and had the pleasure of being engaged in community with for many, many years. I came to New Westminster over 30 years ago as a newlywed, bought our first house just on the border of Glenbrook North, and Queen's Park restored it to its former glory, and that's where we raised our sons. So what I know about New West and my sons is, it's a very tight community. Probably from the time they could walk and hold a lacrosse stick. Siri's talking to me, sorry. So, as soon as they could walk and hold a lacrosse stick, they were engaged with the Salmon Bellies, and then later the Warlocks, which is the outdoor club here. And because it's such a small, close, tight-knit community, it's actually a very modern 21st century city with the heart of a small town. And I think because of that, our sons got to know each other really, really well. And as they grew and went through school, they ended up knowing how to read one another and the plays so well that our small club in New Westminster ended up going to pick up the nationals in Canada, and then later on won the North American Championships in North America when they were in high school in North America. So huge honor to be a part of that in this community. Further to that, I have had the privilege of being a Music Monday mom at Douglas College through the Suzuki Violin Music School with my sons. And again, really exposing us to a really other diverse cross-section of our community and opening their hearts and minds, developing a really wonderful appreciation of music and connecting with the community in another way, and just being able to connect with the citizens, sit on a lot of the boards and associations throughout their preschool and growing up years. So my personal endeavors, career-wise, before I was married, I was trained as a designer and worked in fashion arts for many years and had a number of small businesses here in the community in New Westminster From there, I forayed into, I thought I'd go back and get a degree in art therapy. I ended up at Simon Fraser University, however, working in the Office of International Development, and spent a lot of time on community economic development projects, sustainable development, both locally and globally. So I've had the privilege and understanding of being able to really meet and connect with a lot of people and connect the dots in our work. From Simon Fraser University, I also had the privilege and pleasure of running and operating the Muslim Studies Center. And so one of the things that's really close to my heart is just connecting with people. And whether that is in my home or around the world with my travels and my work that I've done, I've been able to embrace the local and bring it to the global, and vice versa, bringing that back and lessons learned into the community. From there, I have been able to work with the City of Vancouver, most recently, the last year and a half. And I think that's where my motivation lay, because I was able, what I do is I work with the city manager and senior managers and also mayor and council. And it gives me this bird's eye view into who runs for election. And for instance, in the by-election that we had last year, I saw many people throwing in their hat. And I thought, well, that's great, but should they? And so looking at our council and what's happening in our community, and having been out in the world and seeing many lessons and best practices, it just motivated me. After seeing many people here, I wanted to see some diversity and some change, and be able to share my voice and listen to the community members. This community is one of the few in Queensborough where I can wave at a complete stranger and have somebody genuinely wave back. And that's the heart and the spirit of New Westminster that I love so much, and I continue to. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Moving to our last candidate for the evening. Bryn Warren.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. I'm sorry for being late. I am the president of the HIAC Festival Association and was in Portland on HIAC business and got held up at the border a little bit. I never thought I'd be a politician, ever. And I got tired of being frustrated and complaining with issues with the festival, or as a realtor, issues with zoning, and decided that why not step up to the plate and try to make a difference on behalf of the residents of New Westminster. I say it like it is, and I hope that people like that. I'm not going to blow smoke and mirrors. I feel shocked. Unfortunately, that was a personal attack, which I don't think there's need for. And instead of throwing Daniel under the bus, let's get some high school buses from Queensborough to the West. Thank you. I've had many clients over the years who have sold from Queensborough because their children were going to the high school. I would say 99.9% of my buyers, when they want to live in New West, and I say, are you also considering Queensborough? Say no. I think having the open irrigation ditches is a huge safety risk. I am thankful that not more children have drowned in them. I think that should be on top of the priority list. I was an actor for 30 years. I'm a big supporter of the arts, but honestly, I'd rather money go towards the ditches and irrigation than to getting more art into New West. The return on investment for the homeowners would be huge for that reason, and I think it's time to really step it up in Queensborough. There's a common thread of us on that side of the bridge and them on this side of the bridge, and Queensborough has so much potential. Now, I know that one of the elephants in the room is the recent housing project for women. New West has many housing recovery houses for men and women. I am proud to say I am in recovery, and I have personally been to the new Westminster House on the other side of the bridge. And I really feel that not only was the location of the new housing project beside an elementary school, a middle school, and the Queensborough Community Center not a great choice for the residents and a rush decision, but not a great choice for the women that are staying there, because the services that they need, the doctors, pharmacies, counseling, there's so much more of that on the other side of the bridge. Now, having said that, I don't want people to try to ease your concerns with women living there again. I personally was in a house. There's lots of eyes on you. They always travel in threes. It's a great opportunity for the children of them to give them a great place to live. So I hope that you will embrace them as it's a little bit too late to make changes. That's another frustrating thing I've found, is that we have all these advisory committees at City Hall, and we have the experts, whether it's from the arts or heritage or what have you, festivals, grants, and the experts tell the city what they want, what the citizens want, what's best. And it's one thing to, talk about something, but it's another thing to implement it, and implement it in a timely fashion. I feel that it's all talk, no action. I would like to see things be less frustrating, less red tape. We would really like to have a navigator at City Hall for people looking into building or zoning, or if you have a tree on your property that has died but it's heritage protected, can't we use common sense practices to just say, oh, the tree's dead, you can cut it down. I would like to see more of that. So I'm honored to be running. I believe and I hope that I can make a difference in the community. That's why I'm doing this. I'm very proud to be running with my co-candidates. Again, I would not run if I was being funded by special interest groups. I would only run if I could vote and say the things that I feel and believe. So thank you.
Thank you, Brent. So we've gone through all of our candidates tonight and heard from them all, and I'd just like to acknowledge that Councillor Harper's in the audience here tonight, and thank you for your service to the community. And I hope retirement's good to you. Perfect. I'd also like to thank all our members of our community for coming out tonight. It's good to see everybody here and taking an interest in what's going on. And it took me a while to figure out how to get the speaker forward there so it wasn't deafening Patrick and Troy, but yeah, I know, I'll speak up. And we're going to adjourn this, and we're going to make just a mix and mingle. But I have just a couple of other things to ask. Next Monday, the same format will be for the school board trustees. And it will be, well, I think there's 16 of them running, if I remember correctly. And the other piece I just wanted to ask, and this is totally off this election, but we're going to be having a proportional representation come out from our provincial government. And those ballots are going to come out on, I believe it is October 22nd, and you have until November 30th to return them. I'm interested in a basic show of hands if the community here is interested in having a yes and no side come in and present here around proportional representation. Well, that's looking pretty good. Because they tell you it's as easy as ordering a cup of coffee. And I've actually read it 3 times and I still can't order a cup of coffee. And the person that wrote it has like 3 graduate degrees, so but I will look into that, and I think it's going to then be in the week of November 12th. I just have to put some more fine tuning to it. So anyways, with this, I'd like to just close it up. Thank all of our candidates. Good luck in the election. and mix and mingle.
Thank you, Lori.